What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caitlin Kenna-Smith, and as per usual, guys, we're going to get right into the podcast because I don't do ads. Who knows? One day I might. Who knows? But probably not, because my ads are what I actually use and enjoy. So if you hear me in the podcast talking about a product or a service that I fucking love and that I use on a daily basis, or that I've found that my clients find value from, that's the ad. My ad is just sharing the mission of the podcast and sharing the mission of the Powerhouse Mentality as a whole. And if you have any friends or family members who need the Powerhouse Mentality in their life, whether it be the private Facebook community or the leaderboard or the push or the challenges or the apparel or the podcast, whatever they need, share it with them. I do work with a bunch of different companies. I work with First Form, Just Meats, Flux Footwear. And I work with these companies because I love the product, I love the people, I love the core values of the company. So if you ever need anything, shoot me a message, ask me a question, go to my social media pages, and that's how you can support those things and save money as well for yourself. But again, I'll never do an ad on a podcast for shit that I never use, because that's what I find that a lot of people do, is I'll go on to other podcasts that do have ads, and usually it's about something that is just very not generic. The people who do it really well, I love the podcast Mind Pump. I listen to it literally every single day. And the guys on Mind Pump do it fucking great, because they talk about products and services intertwined into the episode, explaining the benefits, why they use it, what they've seen their family use it, and how they love it. And it's so authentic. And that's exactly what I'm about. So that was just a little bit of my 2 cents about that, because I find that a lot of podcasts that I've been listening to lately, because I've been trying to venture out and try some different podcasts to just kind of see what other people are doing and see what other people like about that particular podcast and things like that, just like market research, we'll call it. And a lot of what I find is that immediately straight into it, people get into ads. And I don't see a problem with that as long as it's authentic, because some people do it really well. It's authentic. They connect it to why they use it, why their family uses it, why their clients use it, or whatever it entails, and it works. However, some people, it's just super, just like, it literally is a commercial and you just zone it out. So anyway, I just usually get right into my podcast. Maybe I should slow it down a little bit and kind of give a little bit more of an introduction. But if you're new here, hi, my name is Caitlin Kenna-Smith. I already told you that. But we're going to get right into the podcast. And today's an episode of Lessons from Training. Just so that you know, like, we keep it real here. Lessons from Training. So today's lesson from training kind of goes twofold. And I'll just kind of give you a brief synopsis of it before I get into the story. So the things that come from this episode that you want to take away, there are 2 things. 1, there's always another level. And 2, you can always go one more. And I'm going to shout out Nick Bare and BPN Supplements for the go one more mentality, because if you don't know who Nick Bare is, if you don't know who BPN is, check out their mission of go one more. It's unbelievable, incredible story. Nick Bare is an incredible human being. I love his podcast. I love his content. And I've been following him for a decade plus that he's been on social media and sharing his journey on YouTube of building his supplement business. But they have this mantra, go one more. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's go one more. You can always go one more. So on Friday, I had a nice little conditioning piece to kick off my training for the day. We had a 24-minute AMRAP where it was 12 calories on the assault bike, 6 thrusters at a heavy weight, and 6 chest to bar pull-ups, which if you've been following the podcast, pull-ups, gymnastics is not my forte. In fact, this was the first time that I've ever done chest to bar pull-ups outside of the CrossFit Open in a Metcon, because I'm actually starting to get them. It wasn't fun though, and it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, but again, that's another lesson from training. Sometimes shit doesn't go the way that you want it to go, and we did an episode on that one. But 6 chest to bar pull-ups, and then finishing it off with 12 burpees over the bar, and then you rest a minute after each round, and you do as many rounds as possible for 24 minutes. Now, once the 24 minutes is done, the workout ain't done. So you rest until 30 minutes, so you get 6 minutes of rest to kind of find your soul, find your life, and get prepared for the next interval. or set of intervals, which is every 3 minutes for 15 minutes, 10 power cleans at the same weight that you did the thrusters at. I'm not going to share my prescribed weight because it's going to be heavy for some people, light for some people, but it's the right stimulus for me. And then a 12-calorie row. So, I finished the first part of the workout, and honestly, the first part of the workout, I felt more fatigued than I expected to feel, which, looking back, is kind of stupid, because I'm like, I know I can pound the bike, I'm getting much better at the bike, I know that I'm great at burpees, so I can just kind of do those mindlessly, but the thrusters and the chest to bar were going to be, like, the limiting factors for me in that workout, and were going to be more of the technical movements that slowed me down a little bit, but the bike fucking blew me up, the burpees sucked. The chest to bar was definitely the biggest factor for me. If that didn't exist in the workout, that would have been phenomenal. But, we do the things that we're not good at in order to become better at the things that we're not good at. And we do them in training, not just working on them, so that we can feel the stimulus of how it's going to feel during a workout. Because if I go into a competition and I've never done pull-ups or chest to bar pull-ups in a Metcon where my heart rate is high, where my grip is fatigued, where my lats are fried, where my body's blowing up and my mind is just in a different place, and I've only practiced working on it in just sets through skill work or bodybuilding, then I'm not going to be able to handle it when it's thrown at me in competition because I've never been there before. So that's why in CrossFit, not only is it important for you to practice grip, for you to practice skills, but it's important for you to practice these skills in a Metcon situation. Right? When your heart rate is high, when your grip is blown up, when all of these things and different factors are playing in and you're more fatigued, it's so important to practice that skill in sport if you're an athlete. So, like I said, first part of the workout, I felt more fatigued than I wanted to. But again, one of those moments where I look back and I'm like, I looked at that workout and I misjudged the workout, which I tend to do all of the time. And I wasn't necessarily happy with the workout. However, I felt like I gave everything that I had. I just didn't like how I paced it, I guess is the best way to put it. I felt like I blew up a little bit too early. But again, that's kind of what an AMRAP is. It's a fine line of, oops, am I going to push it too hard right from the get-go? But sometimes it really does pay off to go out too hot to show yourself that you can hold on, or to even see if you can hold on. To put yourself in different situations and test not just your physical ability, but also your mental ability. Now, as I was sitting, well, I wasn't sitting because sitting during a rest period is a fucking mistake, because then you just start to seize up and your body's like, oh, we're resting, we're done. But it's not. So I was walking around during that rest period, that 6-minute rest between the part 1, the AMRAP, and part 2, the EMOM portion. And in my head, I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of develop a strategy for this. I'm going to do 6-4 on the power cleans. So 6 power cleans, drop it, 4 power cleans, and then get into the row and sprint on the row. And in my mind, I was like, okay, this is a good strategy so that way I don't blow up like I did in this Metcon. And also, in the moment when I made this plan, I was hurting. I was hurting from the first part, right? So heart rate was up. I was fatigued. And it's easy to come up with a plan or commit to something uncomfortable when you're in a comfortable situation. For example, if you're sitting on the couch, the temperature in the room is perfect, you're nice and cozy, you're relaxing, you have some nice cold water next to you, and you make the decision, I'm going to do this really fucking challenging workout tomorrow, and I'm going to kick my ass in it, or I'm going to sign up for this competition, or I'm going to sign up for this ultra marathon, or this marathon, or whatever you're going to sign up for. It's much easier for you to make that decision or that plan when you're in a comfortable situation, because you're in a fucking comfortable situation. It's much more challenging to make an uncomfortable commitment when you're also in an uncomfortable situation, because your body and your mind is doing everything possible to keep you comfortable. All right? So the first set of that every 3 minutes for 15 minutes, so the first 3-minute segment, I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't satisfied with my effort. And I think that's the best way to put it, because I cannot be happy sometimes with my performance, but sometimes we can't always control our performance in the sense where maybe I didn't sleep well the night before. Maybe I didn't fuel up. Maybe I'm just fatigued from the entire week of training. Or maybe I had something stressful happen to me in the morning that fucked my mind up. And maybe we can't necessarily control those things that could impact our performance. Or sometimes you're just having a bad day, or sometimes hormones, right? But you can always control your effort. So I wasn't necessarily satisfied with my effort, and that's a problem for me. Because that's in my control. And when my effort isn't there, then that's on me. And there's nobody else or nothing else that I can point the finger of blame at. It's my responsibility at that point. And I recognized that. And I said, okay, between the first and the second set, as I was on that like minute and a half rest, my goal for sets 2 through 5 was to make it hurt as much as I possibly could. No pacing strategy, just fucking go and see if I can hold on. And that's exactly what I did. Sets 2, 3, 4, 5 were painful. And there were a lot of times during the rest period of those intervals that I thought, you've proved your point. It's okay to ease off the gas. Like, all of these negative thoughts telling me to slow down, or, oh, you're not going to be able to finish this if you continue at this pace. Those thoughts were starting to kind of contaminate my mind. And I, again, recognize that. And I think it's so important as you're listening to this story that, like, it's these things that I'm telling you that I've become aware of, I wasn't aware of when I first started training. I wasn't aware of them when I first started getting into the sport of CrossFit. It's something that I've learned to become better at, is hearing my thoughts and understanding, okay, my mind is trying to slow me down and put me in a comfortable place. I need to shut those thoughts up and counter those thoughts so that I can continue to push at the level that I need to push in order to become the athlete that I want to be. It's not just physical preparedness when it comes to being an athlete in a sport, especially like CrossFit, but it's a lot of mental capability. A lot of athletes are great. Physically, they can perform at high levels. Maybe they're really fucking strong. Maybe they can endure really long. But if you're not willing to suffer, then you're going to be limited in how far you're able to go in this sport. Now, like I said, these negative thoughts are trying to contaminate my mind. And I did have a counter thought to it. And that was, it's going to hurt, but you can handle it. And that's the important part there. Is like, if you keep telling yourself, like, it's going to hurt, then in your mind, yeah, you're kind of prepared for it, but also when it starts to hurt, it's going to become more obvious to you, because then you start to have that doubt set in, where it's like, oh, maybe I can't handle this. But if you continue to remind yourself that, yes, it's going to hurt, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, you're setting the expectation, but you can handle it. You can overcome it. You've been here before. And if you fail, great. You've learned where the limit is. Now you can move on. Now, the thing with this part of the workout, the every 3 minutes for 5 sets or for 15 minutes, is I knew that I wasn't going to fail in the time domain because I knew I could do the 10 power cleans and the 12 cal row in that 3 minutes without a problem. So I could go as slow as I wanted to or as fast as I wanted it to. So that was up to me on how much effort I wanted to put into each interval. Okay? And that, again, matters because I get more nervous for those workouts because I'm like, I know I can push really hard on this. It's just up to me to push into that uncomfortable situation and to put in as much effort as possible. And if I fail, then it's on me. Now, between sets 4 and 5 there, final interval, I had the thought that, I should add one more since the first set wasn't intentional. But then another negative thought came in and said, well, no, do the 5, just sell your soul on that 5th one so that way you can make up for that first shitty set. And I was already selling my soul, but I was like, empty the fucking tank. I know you have more workouts, more stuff to do after this, but don't think about that. Think about what you're doing right now. Think about the moment right now. if you don't give everything that you got right now and empty that tank, you're going to feel like shit after the interval, mentally. So I finished the 5th interval, and I absolutely sold my soul. And then I did another one. Because I wanted to prove to myself more than anything that when you're in such a place where your mind is fatigued, your body's fatigued, you feel defeated, you feel depleted, you can always go one more, no matter how much you're hurting, physically and mentally. Right? And that's a good analogy for life. It's not just in training, right? All of these lessons from training you take and you put into your everyday life. Wherever you're at on your journey, you can apply these lessons. There's always another level, and you can always go one more. You can apply those lessons to any area of your life, and that's exactly what I do. I think that I move forward in my life the way that I move forward in my life. I don't like to say that I'm successful because I'm nowhere near to where I want to be. However, I've made a lot of progress, and I find that I've made so much progress over the years because of training, because of my capability to push myself and to learn different things through training when I'm in that uncomfortable situation that I can then apply to my life, and that's how I, again, move forward. So do I recommend always adding a set to your workouts? No, I do not. In fact, I actually probably go against it more often than not because I'm a huge proponent that you should trust the programming and you should stick to the programming. However, there is a time and a place where you need to prove to yourself that you can do more. So, again, the biggest things that I want you guys to take away from this episode of the podcast is that no matter where you're at, no matter how hard you think that you're going, there's always another level. And you can always control your effort. So that's what you should focus on. Don't focus on all the little shit that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can control. Your attitude, your effort, your actions, and how you respond to the things that happen to you in life. And understand that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it's up to you to make it so that those things influence you in the right way. And then, of course, like I said, you can always go one more. Shout out again to Nick Bear because that's all him. But what I want you to do this week, because it's a Monday, it's a new week, I want you to take this lesson and I want you to implement it somewhere in your life this week. And when you do, I want you to reach out to me and shoot me a message. I want to share that. But I also want to just see your wins. All right, so go out today and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.